In this next video, we're going to show you some of the software characteristics of the OtoSim Mobile Portal to be used by instructors to create content, to create a curriculum, to deliver a quiz, a defined quiz to your students, or to give an exam or an OSCE to your students. So in the first part, we'll get onto the system in a standard way using our URL that will be given to you when you purchase the product. In this case, we're running a local server for demonstration purposes only. So you will be, when you log on to our site, you will be given an option in a similar fashion to what you see on this screen, whether you want to log in to the OtoSim platform, the mobile platform, or the OtoSim mobile platform. Now, your portal program cannot be used. It's not designed to be used on a phone. It's meant to be used on a tablet with a bigger screen or a PC computer, as we're doing it on this particular video. So in this case, we're going to log into the OtoSim platform. So I'll click on it, and our login screen comes up. So I put in my username and password. In this case, it's a generic teacher. And I put my password in it and submit. When you first log in, this is the screen you're going to see, an empty screen. So it tells you who's logged in. In this case, I'm a fake teacher. And the OtoSim home screen, return to the educator's homepage, is a similar button throughout our entire software series. The back button on your browser is used a similar way as you would on any browser-based program. It goes back one page. So let's go into classes. I want to create a new class, so this is where I create my class. So I click on here, and then I can add my class. So I want to call my class, let's call it test class. Okay, I add my class. Now this appears. So the name of my class, test class, the number of students that are in my class, there's no students in my class yet. This is the curriculum, presentations, quizzes and exams, and reports for me as an instructor or as an educator for my class. So I don't have any students in this class, so how do I create the students in my class? So if I go to this button, edit the class, this comes up, the class name, the students. I want to add a student. In this class, I'm gonna just select one. So I got one student in my class, and the name of that student is a fake student. And I save the class. Okay, so now I have one student in my class, and that name of that student is fake student. So now I want to create a curriculum for that class. So I click on this. I want to create a curriculum. So let's say the first day of the first week, I want my students to view foreign bodies and cerumen. So I just click off what I want from my content, of all the content in the program itself, and then I save it. And I'll save that as, say, we'll call it week 1. I save the curriculum. It stores the curriculum now, week 1. If I look at week 1, it shows that I've got foreign bodies and cerumen as part of that curriculum. If I want to activate the curriculum for my class, or for that individual, in this case, one student in the class, I'll activate the curriculum, and a little check mark appears beside it. So now that curriculum has been activated. So when the student, fake student, goes on to his or her smartphone or PC, and they open their program, they will see flags beside the foreign body section and the cerumen section, telling them that they must view those two sections. So pretty simple. If I want to deactivate it, I can deactivate that class. So we'll keep it activated, and we'll save it. So we save it, and then I could go back to the main section, So now I have a curriculum that I've created with week 1, and I have engaged it. I've activated it for the class, the test class. So now if I want to create a presentation, I click the presentation button. I would create a new presentation. Let's call that presentation test class. If I want to take a slide, I can select from our image library or from my personalized library that I've created. So in this case, let's just take a normal anatomy. Let's do a middle ear. Let's take this one. We'll bring it over. So let's add something to this slide. So if I want to see what's written with that slide already, so I can add either annotations or words. If I want to add my own words, I put them in here. I can type what's in here or copy and paste and put it in here. And then I could save the text. Or I could take annotations that came with the particular image. In this case, there are none. I can create a new one. Now let's take some text. So I want to see what text came with the image in this one. So I can look at the OtoSim notes. If I press on the question button, this gives me the explanation of that slide. So if I want to just copy and paste the whole thing, you would do it in a standard way. Copy. I can cancel that, and then I can open this, and I can click in here and paste. So now it's put all that content, and I can save the text. So now it's saved this text with this slide. Now if I want to add an annotation, okay, so let's create a new annotation. I've got a choice here, the annotation name. Let's call it cochlea. Okay, so I've named the cochlea. I want to, where am I going to put that annotation? I'll press this button here as a circle, and here's the cochlea here. So I'll put that one there. I'll move it down to the cochlea. I can make this bigger, smaller by dragging these buttons around. I can turn it. So we'll keep it simple and just do one spot here. And we'll call that the cochlea. And that's what the student's going to have to target to hit it in that particular presentation. So here's save the annotation. Want to save the annotation, we'll save it. It's engaged the cochlea as an annotation, or I can turn it off and on. In this case, we'll keep it turned on. And we'll save, we'll just put one slide for the presentation just for brevity. So we'll save the presentation. If I clicked yes, it would be enabled immediately. But if I want to save it to enable later, I would click no. In this case, I'm going to click no, just to show you the process of going through to engage it later. So I've now done with this section. So let me go back to the main menu. And here's the presentation section. This time, I will enable it for the class. Okay, so now it is enabled for the class. I'll go back to the home page, and we'll look at quizzes and exams. We'll show you what this has done on the student side after we're done here. So to reiterate, we've engaged one curriculum, week 1. We've activated week 1. We've created one presentation and only enabled one, called test class. And now we're going to go to quizzes and exams. I want to create a multiple choice quiz or exam. So I'm going to create one by pressing the plus button. Okay, so this now sets up the type of question I want. It's a multiple choice question. So let's select a slide from it. Let's look at middle ear, let's say congenital cholesteatoma. I like this slide here. So I will select it. And now the slide appears in the question. Okay, and I can now type in here my question. I can create it. This is an example of, and I can create options. Default, let's say normal. acute otitis media, and congenital cholesteatoma. Okay, and I select the right answer, which is this one. Okay. If I want another question, I'd add a new question here. If I want to save the exam, I save it here. So let's just save it. We'll have a one-question exam or quiz. Okay, what do I want to call it? Let's call it week 1. Save. This screen comes up. Do I want to save it as a quiz, an exam? Do I want to enable it for the class? And how many seconds do I have to answer each question? So let's do it as a quiz. Let's enable it for the class, and let's say 15 or 20 seconds to answer the question. Save the quiz or the exam. All right, so that's done. So I go back to the home page. If I go into the quizzes and exams, you see that I've got week 1 is the name of the quiz or exam, and I've selected it as a quiz and enable it for the class. Okay, so let's create an anatomical exam. So let's take another picture, another slide. Let's say tube granuloma. Let's use this one. Okay, these are the annotations that have come with it. You have to point out, choose an annotation. So let's say the granulation polyp. That's what the student has to point to. And that's it. It's one question. We'll call it test anatomy. We're going to use this as an exam. We're going to enable it for the class, and we'll give you 20 seconds to do it. So we'll save it. If I go back to the main page, you will now see in the quizzes and exams, I have a week 1. If I click on it, week 1 quiz enabled for the exam, and I can change these at any time. And I have a test anatomy quiz, which is now, or exam, which is enabled as an exam for the class. This button shows me the progress of the students who have completed the exam. So when all of the students have completed the exam, I can view it as the instructor to make sure that everybody's completed the exam. And I can edit the quiz or exam from here. Or I can delete it. All right, so that shows you how we create quickly one question quiz and one question exam. The report section will give me the content progress, how far each individual student has gone through the program, because it is a web-based, data-driven program. This gives me the progress of the fake student using the mobile device. So this particular person has done nothing. So he's not gone through any of the content. And I can drill down by dropping the drop-down arrows more in a granular way to find out what progress a student has made. And then I can print it out if I want, if there's something to print. So let's go back to the main page. Okay, and then the exams. Here's the name of the exam, test anatomy. Nobody's taken the exam yet. Fake student, okay, he hasn't answered anything yet. So now we're going to go back to the home page, and we're going to show you on the mobile platform what this has done to the student side of the process. On the portal side, we just made some changes to the curriculum content, presentations, quizzes, and exams that were to be delivered to my test class, and we're going to see what those changes are now looking at it from the student side using the smartphone. So I engage the OtoSim Mobile site, log in as the student with his password, and I'll show you the changes that have now been made. Okay, so when the student opens their program up, if they open the pathology section, you will see that there are two tags besides the cerumen and foreign bodies. So that was the week 1 curriculum that I created as the instructor to this particular class. So when the student sees that, they know that they must review the material within those sections. I also created, in the quiz section, I created a defined quiz named Week 1 for this particular student as well, or class. And you see it's marked down below as Week 1. So if I engage Week 1, you will see the question that I suggested for the student. So the question was, this is an example of, the answer is acute otitis media, congenital cholesteatoma. If I do congenital cholesteatoma, submit, gives me the correct answer. Okay, and my time, I set 20 seconds for the question. You see that it gave me 20 seconds. That one I can do as many times as I want because it's a quiz. It's not an exam. So let me try it again. If I put it on, you see I got 20 seconds to submit my answer. I read my question. This is an example of. I give an answer. If I give the incorrect answer, it turns red. And I can select it again. If I have time left, I can select it again and give the correct one. And it turns green. And I can take that quiz as many times as I want. It doesn't disappear. So that was created by my instructor, my professor, to me and to my class. Now, if I open up the exams, remember we created an exam for the class. So if I open up my exam section, here's my exam. I read all my instructions very carefully. Because recall, you're not going to be able to change your answers once the time has run out, and you're not going to be able to see the exam again. Once I finish the exam, it disappears from my list. So here's my defined exam that we created. It's called Test Anatomy. So when I'm ready to take it, I'll engage it. So this one says locate the granulation polyp. So if I move it to the granulation polyp and submit, my answer's been submitted. It shows it in blue. I have 20 seconds to do the question. I can still change my answer, but I'm going to leave it the way it is. Okay, so now the exam is complete. The time has run out. So if I go back down, it's now disappeared from the defined exam list, so I can no longer take it as a student. So it's done. Okay, so that shows you the changes that I made on the portal side. So we'll now exit this program and go back to the Educators Portal side to see what the changes that have occurred given the involvement of my student. Okay, so now I've delivered the curriculum content, and I showed you on the other video how it was delivered to the student side of the application by flagging the two sections, foreign bodies and cerumen. I created a presentation called Test Class and enabled it, and we viewed the presentation on the videos on the student side because it was enabled. And I created one quiz called Week 1 and enabled it for the class. And I created an exam called Test Anatomy and enable it for the class. And if I go back to the button here and who's completed the exam, you could see that fake student, the one student in my class, has completed the exam. Now, if there were 100 students, it would list all the students in the class that have completed the exam. So now I know that the exam is complete. Now I can go into the metrics, so the reports. So now if I look at the exam section, you'll see that here's the exam that was taken, test anatomy. This now shows me the entire class, the test class, and shows me fake student. So either the entire class or, which is only one student, there was only one question. If I hover over the bar, it shows me there was 1 out of 1 correct, 0 out of 1 incorrect, and no unanswered questions. So it gives me the results. And if I want to look at the question, this is the question that I asked by clicking on the drop-down list, View Question. I can see that the question was granulation polyp. It shows me where I was asking the students to target, and it shows me that they all got it correct. And if I wanted to find out about the fake student, it's the same here because there's only one student in the class. I could find out what the performance of each student was within the class. And if I wanted to print it out, I can print the exam in a graphical format, which is only one question, so it doesn't show much of a graph, but it shows me the results in a graphical format for my own purposes. I'm going to show you what progress our fake student has made, and I go into the report section, and on the content progress button, I click on it, and now I will see what my fake student has done. Now remember, there's only one student in this class, so the total class results will be the same as the fake student progress. But in this case, fake student shows me that he did 19% of the total content completed in 28 seconds that he spent in the program. And this breaks down where his time was spent, or her time was spent. So they spent time in the OtoSim study, they spent time in the history of otoscopy, they completed the holding of the ear, holding of the otoscope, etc. This gives you a very good idea of what your student has done in order to monitor the student and monitor their progress, and also puts it relative to the rest of the class. So the total progress of the whole class is 19% of the content was completed, but the average time spent on the program by each of the students is 28 seconds. This is a very powerful tool because if a student is having trouble, as depicted by quizzes or exams that I deliver, or course content, then I can, in a granular way, find out how much time the student actually spent, and I can cater a remedial program for that particular student based on the weaknesses that actually presented during the execution of the program. Or I can also tell whether or not how hard a student has worked. If the student does not do so well, and they only spent 28 seconds on the program, then that could be an explanation. So it allows me as an educator to direct my remediation work or my discussions with the student based on objective data, and I can also relate to the student to the rest of the class performance-wise, and I can print out an entire record of that particular student or the class as far as performance is concerned. So that really summarizes the portal in a very quick way, and I hope the educators will enjoy it in order to, again, improve the outcomes of their classes, to improve the outcomes on their patients. And I thank you again for looking at our products and purchasing them and using them and enjoying them for many years to come.